I work in an office where I thought everyone had my back. My name doesn't matter, but my condition does. I live with chronic pain, not the kind you get from a bad workout or a long day on your feet, the kind that sits in your bones like a low hum that never shuts off. I explain it like this: normal people walk around at a 1 or 2 on the pain scale, maybe a 3 if they stubbed their toe. Me, I'm at a 6 every single morning when I open my eyes. Imagine pulling a muscle in your back and then trying to bend over to tie your shoes. That ache that says don't move, don't twist, that's my baseline. Some days it spikes to an 8 or 9. Rare days I dip down to 4, and those are like winning the lottery. I'm active. I work 2 jobs. I get around fine most of the time, but I'm legally disabled. I have a handicap placard hanging from my rearview mirror. I have the paperwork filed with HR at both jobs. I keep canes in my car, but I only use them when I'm at a 7 or above. I don't like the looks people give me when I park in a handicapped spot and then walk into the store without a visible limp. I know the stares, I know the whispers. I've learned to shrug them off because my pain is invisible and that's just how it is. But I didn't expect it to follow me into my part-time job. I work as an assistant coordinator at a small office. The job is part-time, mostly evenings and weekends. I took it to pad my savings and because staying busy helps with my anxiety. My boss Amy is great, she's understanding, she lets me adjust my schedule when I have bad days. My colleague Casey and I share the same title. We both report to Amy. Casey wants a promotion, everyone knows it. She's been gunning for a full-time coordinator position for over a year. I never wanted it. My full-time job already takes up my mornings, so I figured there was no conflict between us. I was wrong. It started small, comments about my parking spot. "Oh, you're in the handicap spot again, must be nice." I laughed it off at first. I said, "Yeah, it is nice not having to walk across the lot when my back is screaming." She'd roll her eyes. Then she started asking questions. "What's wrong with you exactly? How come some days you're fine and other days you're not?" I tried to explain chronic pain. She didn't get it, or she didn't want to. Then came the day that broke everything. It was a Sunday. I woke up at a 7, that's cane territory, so I grabbed my cane, drove to work, parked in the handicap spot, and hobbled inside. I made it through the shift. By the time I left, the pain had dropped to a 5, still bad but manageable without the stick. I put the cane in the back seat and drove home. On the way, I stopped at the grocery store to pick up dinner. I walked in, grabbed a rotisserie chicken and a bag of salad, paid, and walked out. No cane, no limp, just a normal guy buying dinner. I didn't notice anyone watching. I didn't notice a phone pointed at me, but someone did. The next day at work, Casey pulls me aside. She's smirking. She says, "I saw you yesterday at the grocery store. You were walking fine. No cane, no limp. So what's the deal? You faking it for the parking spot?" I told her that's how chronic pain works. Some days are better, some days are worse. She shook her head. She said, "I don't believe you." And then she showed me the video. She had recorded me from across the parking lot. 30 seconds of me walking into the store, pushing a cart, chatting with the cashier. She said she was going to show it to Amy and HR to prove I didn't have a disability. I didn't scream. I felt like my blood turned cold. I said, "You followed me to the grocery store and filmed me without my consent." She said, "It's a public place and you're lying." I went straight to Amy. I told her everything. Amy looked pissed. She called Casey into her office. Casey doubled down. She said she had a right to expose fraud. Amy told her that disability discrimination is illegal and that filming a coworker off the clock is harassment. Casey left the office crying. I thought it was over. It was. Over the next week, Casey spread rumors around the office that I was a faker, that I was playing the system, that Amy was covering for me because she liked me. A few coworkers started giving me cold shoulders. One guy asked me point blank, "So do you actually have a condition or are you just lazy?" I told him to talk to HR. He backed off, but the damage was done. Then I found out Casey had posted the video online. She blurred my face but described the situation. The comments were vicious. People called me a scammer. Someone said they hoped I'd get caught and lose my job. Casey shared the link with a few people at work. I felt like I was drowning. I filed a formal complaint with HR. They launched an investigation. Casey was put on administrative leave. That should have felt like a win, but it didn't, because then the police got involved, not because I called them, because HR flagged the stalking aspect of the case. An officer came to talk to me. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. Here's the thing nobody tells you about being black and disabled in Texas. The cops look at you differently. The officer asked me for my medical records. He asked if I had a doctor's note. He asked why I was walking so well in the video. I felt like I was the one on trial. I went home that night and cried. I thought I was overreacting, but I was. The truth is, Casey wasn't just questioning my disability. She was trying to ruin my life because she wanted my job. A few days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was Casey's husband. He said, "My wife made a mistake. Please drop the charges. She's scared. She has 2 kids." I didn't reply. I felt bad for her kids. I didn't feel bad for her. Then Amy called me into her office. She had a serious look on her face. She said, "We need to talk about what comes next. Casey's lawyer contacted the company. They want to settle. They want you to sign a non-disclosure agreement and drop the police complaint. In exchange, Casey will resign and you'll get a payout." I asked how much. She told me. It was enough to cover my medical expenses for a few months, but I had to keep quiet. I had to pretend this never happened. I told Amy I'd think about it. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking about the video, about the comments. About the way the officer looked at me, about Casey's kids, about how none of this would have happened if I just had a visible disability, if I used a wheelchair, if I had a missing limb. Instead, I look fine, so I must be lying. That's the world we live in. The next morning, I called my mom. She's always been my rock. I told her everything. She said, "Baby, you do what's best for your peace, but don't let them make you feel small. You didn't do anything wrong." I decided to take the settlement. I signed the NDA. Casey resigned. I got my payout, but I still have to see her face in my head every time I park in the handicap spot. And I still have to work in an office where half the people think I'm a fraud. Some truths don't come out in court, they just sit in your chest and ache. That was a month ago. I thought the story was over. But last week, something new happened. Something that made me realize this wasn't just about me and Casey. It was about something bigger. And I'm about to tell you the part that changed everything. I'm 17 and I work at a coffee shop. I saw my girlfriend's sister making out with a guy who wasn't her fiancé. I thought I could stay out of it. I was wrong. I'd been dating Sam for 8 months. She's a year younger than me, same high school, same group of friends. Her older sister Lisa is 24, engaged to a guy named Mark. The wedding was set for July. I'd met Lisa a few times at family dinners. She seemed nice. She and Mark seemed happy. I had no reason to think otherwise. It was a Saturday afternoon in May. I was working the closing shift at Brew and Beans, a small coffee shop downtown. We were slammed. The after-lunch rush blended into the early evening crowd. I was on register. My coworker Jen was on drinks. We were both running on autopilot. Then Jen nudged me and nodded toward the corner booth. "Get a room," she muttered. I looked over. There was a couple in the back all over each other, full on making out. The guy had his hand on her thigh, her fingers were tangled in his hair. It was intense, embarrassing to watch. I tried to look away, but then I recognized the girl's hair, that blonde streak, that red jacket. It was Lisa. I froze. I knew she was engaged to Mark. I knew the wedding was in 2 months. And she was locked lips with some random dude in a coffee shop where her little sister's boyfriend worked. I didn't say anything to Jen. I just turned back to the register and tried to focus. They stayed for another 15 minutes. I kept my head down. Finally, they left. I let out a breath, thought I was safe. I grabbed a wet rag and went to wipe down the tables. The corner booth was a mess: napkins, spilled sugar, 2 half-empty cups. I was bent over cleaning when the door jingled. I looked up. Lisa had come back in. She scanned the shop, saw me, and her face went white. She walked straight over. Her voice was shaking. "Did you see anything?" I said no. I said I was too busy. I said I didn't even notice who was in the corner. She didn't believe me. She said, "You're lying. I saw you look at me. You recognized me." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there holding the rag. She grabbed my arm. "We need to talk. You can't tell anyone. You can't tell Sam. You can't tell Mark, please." I told her I wouldn't say anything. I just wanted her to let go of my arm. She did. Then she said, "We're not done. I'll find you later." And she left. I finished my shift in a daze. I kept thinking about Mark. I'd only met him a couple times. He seemed like a decent guy. He worked construction, had a quiet laugh, always brought flowers for Lisa. And she was cheating on him in a coffee shop like it was nothing. When I got home, my phone buzzed. It was Sam. "Hey, what's going on with you and my sister? She's really upset and won't tell me why." I texted back. "I don't know, nothing happened." She texted again. She said, "You saw something." "She's crying, can you come over?" I said I couldn't. "My parents don't let me leave the house after 8 on school nights unless it's an emergency. Sam said they'd drive to my house and I could sneak out." I said that would be hard. She said, "Please, just please." I told her I needed to think. I put my phone on silent and stared at the ceiling. That night I barely slept. I kept imagining Mark finding out. I kept imagining Lisa coming after me. I didn't want to be the guy who ruined a wedding, but I also didn't want to be the guy who covered up a lie. The next morning I had a text from an unknown number. It was Lisa. "We need to meet, noon, the park behind your school. Don't tell Sam." I didn't know what to do. I felt like I was being pulled into something I didn't sign up for. I went to the park. I waited on a bench. She showed up 10 minutes late. She sat down next to me, didn't look at me. "I'm sorry I grabbed you," she said. "I panicked. I need you to understand something. Mark and I have been having problems for months. I don't know if I want to marry him, but I haven't told anyone yet. And the guy you saw, he's just a friend. It was a mistake one time." I didn't believe her. You don't make out with a friend like that by accident. But I stayed quiet. She said, "If you tell Sam, she'll tell my parents, she'll tell Mark, everything will explode. I just need time to figure things out. Can you give me a week?" Just 1 week. I told her I wouldn't say anything. I meant it. I didn't want to be involved. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. "If you do tell, I'll say you tried to hit on me. I'll say you're lying because I rejected you. No one will believe a 17-year-old over me." I stared at her. She wasn't joking. I said, "That's not true." She shrugged. "It doesn't matter what's true. It matters what people believe." I walked home without saying another word. That night Sam called me. She was crying. She said her sister told her I had been acting weird and that I made her uncomfortable. She asked if I had a thing for Lisa. I said no. She said, "Then why did she say that?" I told her I didn't know. I felt trapped. If I told Sam the truth, Lisa would twist it. If I stayed silent, I looked guilty. I thought I was overreacting. Then things got worse. The next day at school, Sam didn't talk to me. She wouldn't even look at me at lunch. I texted her. She said her sister told her I had been texting Lisa, trying to hang out alone. That was a lie. I never initiated anything. Lisa had texted me first, but I couldn't prove it. I called Sam that night. I told her the truth. Every detail, the coffee shop, the makeout, the park, the threat. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Why should I believe you?" I said, "Because I've never lied to you." She said, "My sister said you're lying. She's crying all the time. She says you're trying to ruin her life." I didn't know what to say. I felt like I was losing her. I felt like Lisa was winning. That was when everything changed. 2 days later, Mark showed up at my work. I was at the register. He walked in, ordered a black coffee, and then leaned over the counter. "Hey kid, I hear you've been talking to my fiancée." I shook my head. "No sir, I haven't." He stared at me. "She told me you've been texting her. She showed me the messages." I didn't know what to say. I had only texted Lisa once, and that was after she texted me, but I couldn't prove it. He said, "Stay away from her or I'll make sure you regret it." He walked out. I stood there shaking. I called my mom from the back room. She said she was coming to pick me up. She called the store manager and told them I had a family emergency. I sat in the car and cried. My mom said, "We're going to get to the bottom of this." But I didn't know how. The next few days were a blur. Sam stopped talking to me completely. Lisa spread rumors around the school through her old friends. People looked at me like I was a creep. A few guys I didn't know threatened me after class. I became the villain in a story I didn't. I became the villain in a story I didn't write. I walked through the hallways with my head down, avoided eye contact, ate lunch in the library. Sam never spoke to me again. A week later, she posted a photo with a new guy. I never heard from Lisa again either. The wedding happened in July. I saw the photos on Facebook, Lisa smiling, Mark holding her, everyone celebrating. I wondered if he ever found out the truth. I wondered if she ever told him. I'll never know. I'm 18 now. I still think about it sometimes. That week taught me how easily the truth can get buried under someone else's fear. I never thought I'd have to explain my disability to people who don't want to believe it. But here we are, I'm 32. I have chronic pain, the kind that lives in your bones and your muscles, in the spaces between your joints. I've had it since I was 26 after a car accident that crushed my lower back and left me with nerve damage that never fully healed. I've learned to manage it. I work 2 jobs, I take care of myself. I own canes, but I only use them on bad days, days when my pain rating hits a 7 or above. On good days I'm at a 4, maybe a 5. Normal people walk around at a 1 or 2. Imagine stepping on a Lego and that being your baseline. That's close. I live in Texas. I'm black. Those 2 facts matter more than they should. I moved to a new location for my part-time job about 8 months ago. The position was assistant coordinator, same as my coworker Casey. Casey had been there 4 years. She wanted the promotion to full-time coordinator. I didn't. I already have a full-time job. I do the part-time because I like the work and it keeps my mind off the pain. Casey resented me for existing in her space. She never said it outright, but I could feel it. The way she'd sigh when I asked a question, the way she'd correct me in front of the boss, the way she'd watch me. My boss, Amy, is great. She's fair, she listens. She approved my disability accommodation paperwork the week I started. I have a handicap placard for my car. I have a note on file that says I may need to sit or take breaks during long shifts. Amy never questioned it. Casey didn't know about the accommodation. I didn't hide it, but I didn't broadcast it either. I just wanted to do my job and go home. The trigger was a Sunday in January. I woke up at a 6 on the pain scale, which is manageable but uncomfortable. By noon, I was at a 7. My lower back felt like someone had driven a hot screwdriver into my spine. I was on my feet all day at my full-time job, and by the time I drove to the part-time, I was limping. I parked in the handicap spot. I used my cane. I walked into the building and saw Casey at the front desk. She looked at my cane, then at my face, then back at the cane. She didn't say anything. The shift was fine. I kept my head down. Amy asked if I was okay. I said yes, just a bad day. She nodded. That was it. 2 days later, I got a call from Amy. She asked me to come to her office before my shift. I walked in and saw Casey standing there with her arms crossed. Amy looked uncomfortable. She said, "Casey has brought a concern to me. She says she saw you park in the handicap spot on Sunday and use a cane, but she's worried you might not actually need those accommodations." I blinked. "What?" Casey spoke up. "I've seen you walk perfectly fine on other days. You don't limp, you don't use a cane. I think you're faking it." I said, "I have a chronic pain condition. I filed paperwork. The placard is real. The cane is real. Some days are worse than others." Casey said, "I don't believe you." Amy held up a hand. "Okay, let's take a step back. Casey, you can't make accusations without evidence." Casey pulled out her phone. "I have evidence." She played a video. It was me 2 weeks earlier walking into a grocery store. I was carrying a bag of groceries. I was not limping. I was not using a cane. I was having a good day, a 4, maybe a 3. I was moving normally. Casey said, "See, she's faking. She walks fine when she thinks no one is watching." My hands started shaking. I said, "That's not how chronic pain works. On good days I don't need the cane. You don't get to cherry pick my worst moments." Amy looked at the video. She looked at me. She said, "I need to look into this. For now, we'll hold off on any decisions." I left the office. I felt sick. I texted my husband. He said, "This is harassment. She followed you. She recorded you without permission." He was right. I called the police that evening. I explained the situation. The officer on the phone side, he said, "Ma'am, this is a workplace issue. We can't do anything about someone filming you in public. It's not illegal." I said, "She took the video to harass me to prove I'm not disabled. That's ableism. That's discrimination." He said, "You can file a complaint with the EEOC. That's not a police matter." I hung up. I sat on my couch and stared at the wall. I thought I was overreacting. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe I should just ignore it. My husband said, no, you have legal protections. This is hostile work environment. The next day, I requested a meeting with HR. I brought my accommodation paperwork, my doctor's note, my placard registration. I showed the video to the HR manager. She watched it twice. She said, I see your concern, but the video itself doesn't prove anything. It just shows you walking. I said, it shows she followed me. She spied on me. The HR manager said, we'll talk to Casey, give us a few days. A few days turned into a week. During that week, Casey started talking to other coworkers. I heard through a friend that Casey was telling people I was gaming the system and faking disability. A few people started looking at me differently. One guy asked me, why do you need the handicap spot if you can hike on weekends? I don't hike, that was a rumor. I felt like I was being slowly erased. My pain was real, my disability was real, but Casey's video made it look like a lie. She had captured a good day and turned it into evidence against me. That was when everything changed. My husband called a lawyer. The lawyer said, this is classic disability harassment. You have a case under the ADA, but you need to document everything. I started writing down every comment, every look, every conversation. I made a timeline. I saved emails. I took screenshots. The next week, I got an email from Amy. Subject, meeting. I walked into the conference room. Amy and the HR manager were sitting across from Casey. Casey looked smug. Amy said, we've reviewed the situation. Casey, we understand you have concerns. But the video you took was unauthorized surveillance of a coworker. That violates our privacy policy. Casey said, it was in public. That's not surveillance. HR said, it was at a location unrelated to work. You followed her. That's stalking. Casey's face went red. She said, I was just trying to prove she's lying. Amy said, the ADA accommodation is valid. The doctor's note is valid. We cannot and will not revoke her accommodations based on a video of her walking into a store. Casey stood up. This is bullshit. She's a fraud and you're letting her get away with it. She walked out. The door slammed. I sat there shaking. HR said, we'll be issuing a formal warning to Casey. If this continues, we'll escalate to termination. I thanked them. I walked out. I felt like I had won a small battle, but I knew the war wasn't over. The next day, I found a note on my windshield. It said, I'm watching you. You can't hide forever. I didn't know if it was Casey. I didn't know if it was someone else. I took a photo, called the police again. They said, keep the note. If anything else happens, call us back. I called my lawyer. She said, this is stalking. File for a protective order. I went to the courthouse. I filled out the paperwork. The judge approved a temporary restraining order pending a hearing. I served it to Casey at work. She looked at the papers, then at me and laughed. You're really going this far? I said, you took video of me. You left a threatening note. Yes, I'm going this far. She said, I didn't leave any note. I didn't believe her, but I also didn't know who else it could be. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. In the meantime, I stopped parking in the handicap spot. I stopped using my cane at work. I was terrified. I was in more pain than ever because I was avoiding taking care of myself. My husband begged me to use my accommodations. I couldn't. I felt like everyone was watching. At the hearing, Casey's lawyer argued that I was overreacting. He said the video was a good faith concern. He said the note couldn't be proven to be from Casey. The judge looked at the evidence. The restraining order was denied. I sat in the parking lot and cried. I thought I was overreacting. Maybe I was, but then I checked my phone. I had a voicemail from an unknown number. I listened. A distorted voice said, you should have dropped it. Now you're going to regret it. I played it for my husband. He called the police. They said they would investigate. I don't think they did. I went back to work the next day. Casey was there. She didn't look at me. She didn't speak to me, but she smiled at other people. She laughed. She acted like she had won, and maybe she had because I never felt safe again. I started looking for a new job. I found one. I put in my notice 2 weeks later. My last day, Amy shook my hand. She said, I'm sorry this happened. You didn't deserve it. I said, I know. I walked out to my car. I parked in the handicap spot one last time. I used my cane. I didn't care who saw. I don't know if Casey ever got in trouble. I don't know if the note or the voicemail were ever traced. I know I still have pain every day. I know I still flinch when someone points a phone at me. I know I still check over my shoulder. But I also know I was telling the truth. And that's all I have. I'm still here. I'm still working. I'm still fighting. And I don't need a video to prove it. But not every story ends with closure. Sometimes you find yourself in the middle of someone else's mess and you don't even see it coming. Here's another one from when I was just a kid trying to do the right thing. I'm a 17-year-old barista. I never thought I'd be caught in the middle of a cheating scandal that involved my girlfriend's sister. But that's exactly what happened. I work at a coffee shop, nothing fancy, just a local spot with good music and okay espresso. One afternoon it was slammed. The line was out the door. I was on register, barely looking up. My coworker nudged me and said, dude, look at those two, they need a room. I glanced over. There was a couple in the corner booth all over each other, full-on making out, tongue hands in a coffee shop. I laughed and went back to work, but then I got a better look at the girl. It was my girlfriend's sister. I'll call her Jess. She's 24. She's engaged to this guy named Mark. They're supposed to get married in July. The guy she was kissing was not Mark. My stomach dropped. I ducked behind the counter. I didn't want her to see me. I kept my head down until they left. Then I went out to clean the table, hoping the coast was clear. But Jess came running back in. She'd forgotten her phone or something. She saw me. Her face went white. She grabbed my arm. You didn't see anything, right? I said, I didn't see anything. But she knew I knew, she hissed, "We're not done, we need to talk." She left. I stood there shaking. I'm 17, I don't know how to handle this. My girlfriend, let's call her Sam, is Jess's little sister. Sam and I have been together for almost a year. I love her. Don't want to break her family apart. I got home that night, my phone blew up. Sam texted, "What's going on with you and my sister? She's freaking out. She says you saw something." I lied. "I don't know what she's talking about." Sam kept texting. "She wants to meet you. She says she'll drive to your house if you sneak out." "I'm not allowed to leave at that hour. My parents are strict." I told Sam I couldn't. She said, "Please, she's crying. I need you to come." I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I texted her, "I can't. It's not my place to tell you. Ask her yourself." That night I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the image of Jess kissing that guy. Mark is a good dude. He works construction. He's always bringing Jess flowers. They seemed happy, but I guess they were. The next day I called in sick. I didn't want to risk running into Jess again. Sam called me. She was crying. She said, "Jess told me you saw her with someone. Is it true?" I couldn't lie to her. I said, "Yes, I saw her with a guy, not Mark." Sam went silent. Then she said, "I knew it. I knew something was off. She's been acting weird for months." I said, "I'm sorry. I didn't want to be the one to tell you." He said, "You didn't tell me." She did. She came clean because she knew you saw. I felt a little better, but not much because now it was out there and I was in the middle. Mark found out a few days later. I don't know how. Maybe Jess told him. Maybe Sam did, but suddenly the wedding was off. My girlfriend was devastated. She kept saying, "How could she do that to Mark, to our family?" I didn't have an answer. Then Jess called me. She sounded calm, but there was something sharp in her voice. She said, "If you ever tell anyone what you saw, I'll make your life hell. I'll tell your parents you're a liar. I'll tell Sam you tried to hit on me. I'll ruin you." I said, "I already told Sam." "She knows," Jess screamed, "you little piece of shit." Then she hung up. I told my mom. She called the police. They said it was a family matter, not a crime, but they took a report. That was the end of it. A week later, Sam came over. She looked exhausted. She said, "Jess admitted everything. She's been seeing this guy for 6 months. Mark found out from a friend. He's moving out. The wedding is canceled." I hugged her. She cried into my shoulder. She said, "I'm sorry you got dragged into this." I said, "It's not your fault." She said, "I know, but I still feel bad." That was the last time I saw Jess. She moved out of town. I don't know where she is now. Mark got a new job. He's doing okay, and Sam and I, we stayed together for a while longer. But things were never the same. Every time I saw her, I thought about her sister. I thought about that kiss. I thought about how easy it is to lie. Being 17 and caught in the middle of someone else's mess taught me something. Sometimes the truth is ugly, and sometimes telling it makes you the bad guy. I still work at that coffee shop. I still see couples making out. I still get that sick feeling in my stomach. But I also know that I did the right thing, even if it cost me a little piece of my innocence. I'm still here, and I'm still trying to figure out what's right when everything feels wrong. After Sam told me that about Jess admitting everything, I thought maybe we could move past it. I thought the hard part was over, but I was wrong. The hard part was just beginning. Over the next week, Jess kept calling my phone from different numbers, blocked, unknown. I'd pick up and hear her voice low and shaking. "You ruined my life, you happy now?" I'd hang up. She'd call again. I told Sam. Sam said her sister was just lashing out, that she'd calm down, but Jess didn't calm down. She started texting my mom. My mom showed me the messages. "Your son is a liar. He made it all up. He's obsessed with me." My mom knew the truth because I'd told her everything the night I came home shaking. She blocked Jess's number, then Jess showed up at my house. It was a Tuesday evening around 7. I was in my room doing homework. My mom knocked on my door and said, "Don't come out, she's in the driveway." I peeked through the blinds. Jess was standing next to her car, arms crossed, staring at our front door. She looked like she'd been crying. My mom went outside. I couldn't hear what they said, but after a few minutes, Jess got back in her car and drove off. My mom came back inside and said, "She's not well. I told her if she comes near you again, I'll call the police." That night, Sam called me. She was crying. She told my parents you've been stalking her. They believe her. They said I can't see you anymore. I felt my chest tight. "Sam, you know that's not true. You were there. You know what I saw." She said, "I know, but my mom is threatening to kick me out if I keep talking to you. I don't know what to do." I said, "Can we meet somewhere just to talk?" She said, "I can't. They're checking my phone. I have to go." That was the first time I realized I might lose her. The next day at work, I was making lattes on autopilot. My manager pulled me aside and said, "Hey, someone called here asking about you, said they were your girlfriend's sister." Sounded pretty angry. I told her I couldn't give out any info, but heads up. I thanked him and went back to the counter. My hands were shaking. I spilled coffee grounds all over the floor. My coworker asked if I was okay. I said I was fine. I was. Later that week, Mark reached out to me. He got my number from a mutual friend. He said, "Hey, it's Mark, Jess's ex-fiancé. I just wanted to say thank you and also be careful. She's been telling everyone you're the reason the wedding fell apart. She's saying you fabricated the whole thing because you have a crush on her. I know it's not true, but people are talking." I told him I appreciated the warning. He said, "If you need anything, let me know. I've got your back." I didn't tell Sam about that call. I didn't want to give her more stress. But I started feeling like I was carrying a weight I couldn't put down. Every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. I stopped hanging out with my friends because I didn't want to explain why I looked like I hadn't slept in days. Then one night, Sam texted me, "I need to see you. My parents are gone for the weekend. Can you come over tomorrow afternoon?" I said yes. I told my mom I was going to a friend's house. I felt guilty lying, but I needed to see Sam. The next day, I rode my bike to her house. It felt strange walking up the driveway where Jess had stood a week earlier. Sam opened the door. She looked tired, but she smiled. She pulled me inside and hugged me tight. We sat on the couch in her living room. She said, I talked to my mom again. She's still angry, but I told her I believe you. I told her Jess is lying. She didn't want to hear it. I said, what about us? She looked down. I don't know. I can't keep sneaking around, but I also can't lose you. We talked for 2 hours, about Jess, about Mark, about us. Sam said she'd been going through Jess's old phone records. She had access to the family account and found texts between Jess and the other guy going back months. She showed me screenshots. I have proof, she said. If my mom sees this, she has to believe us. I said, are you sure you want to do that? It'll blow up your family. She said, it's already blown up. At least this way the truth is out. The next day, Sam showed her mom the text. Her mom called Jess. There was a huge fight. Jess denied everything at first, then broke down and admitted it. She said she'd been scared to tell the truth because she didn't want to lose Mark. Her mom was furious, not at Sam, but at Jess for dragging me into it and lying. Jess was told to move out by the end of the month. Sam called me that night. She was crying again, but this time it sounded different, relieved. My mom said she's sorry. She said she overreacted. She said you can come over again. I felt a rush of relief so strong I almost dropped the phone. That's great, I said. I'm glad. But something had shifted. I couldn't forget how easy it was for Jess to turn everyone against me. I couldn't forget that feeling of being trapped in a lie I never told. And even though Sam and I were okay now, I started noticing little things. She'd get quiet when I mentioned my day. She'd cancel plans last minute. She'd say she was tired. I told myself it was just the stress of the fallout, but deep down I knew the trust was cracked. A month later, Jess moved to a different city. She sent one last text to Sam. I'm sorry for everything. I hope you can forgive me someday. Sam didn't respond. She showed me the message, then deleted it. I thought we could finally move on, but Sam started pulling away more. She stopped texting first. She'd leave my messages on read for hours. When we hung out, she seemed distracted. I asked her what was wrong. She said, nothing, I'm just processing everything. I believed her because I wanted to. But then one day she came over and said, I think we need a break. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. Why? She said, I love you, but every time I look at you, I think about that day. I think about what you saw. I know it's not your fault, but it hurts. I need space to figure out who I am without all this drama. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I said, okay, because what else could I say? She hugged me and left. I sat on my bed for an hour staring at the wall. That was the last time I saw her. We texted a few times after that. She said she was seeing a therapist. She said she was doing better. I said I was glad. We faded out. No big fight, no final blow-up. Just two people who got caught in a storm they didn't create and couldn't survive. I'm 17. I still work at the coffee shop. I still see couples making out. I still get that sick feeling. But I also know that telling the truth didn't destroy Jess's life. She did that herself. And I know that losing Sam wasn't my fault. It was just the cost of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm still here. I'm still figuring it out. And I'm still trying to believe that doing the right thing is worth it, even when it breaks your heart. You know what's worse than being in pain every single day? Having someone try to prove you're faking it. That's what I'm dealing with right now, and I still can't believe it's real. I have chronic pain, not the kind where you pop a Tylenol and feel better. I'm talking about living at a 6 on the pain scale most days where normal people are at a 2 or 3. Imagine pulling a muscle and having that ache stick around for weeks, months, years. That's my baseline. Some days I'm higher, some days I'm lower, and on the rare blessed days I'm at a 4 I feel like I could run a marathon. I use canes when I'm at a 7 or above, and I have a handicap placard for my car. I've got all the paperwork filed at work for accommodations. I'm legally disabled. I work 2 jobs. My main one is full-time, but I also have a part-time gig I actually enjoy. It keeps me busy, and being busy helps with my anxiety. I was recently moved to a location closer to home, and I loved my new team. My boss, Amy, is great. My colleague Casey and I got along okay. We were both assistant coordinators reporting to Amy. The reason they added me was because the location expanded and needed more hands. Casey had been wanting a promotion for a long time. Everyone knew it. I was open that I didn't want one. My promotion would mean full-time, and I already had a full-time job. I did this job to pad my savings and because I liked it. Casey seemed fine with that at first, but then things started shifting. Little comments. You seem fine today. Must be nice to get a parking spot up front. I brushed it off. I thought maybe Casey was just stressed. Then the Sunday came. I was having a bad pain day, a 7, maybe an 8. I grabbed my cane, hung my handicap placard, and drove to work. I did my shift. I moved slow, but I got everything done. I sat down when I needed to. I didn't complain. That's when I noticed Casey pointing her phone at me from the corner. I thought she was just texting. But later, I saw her watching the video back. She had recorded me walking from my car to the door. I didn't say anything right then. I went home and thought maybe I was overreacting. Maybe she was filming something else. But the next day, I heard her on the phone in the break room. I've got proof she's not really disabled. She walks fine without the cane sometimes. She's just milking the system. My stomach dropped. I told Amy. Amy called Casey into her office. Casey denied it at first, then admitted she'd taken video but said she was just documenting for my own sake. Amy told her to delete it. Casey said she did. I didn't believe her. A week later, I was at the grocery store. I was having a decent day, a 5 maybe, so I didn't use my cane. I was just grabbing milk and bread. I turned down an aisle and saw Casey. She had her phone out again. She was filming me. She didn't see me see her. I walked up to her and said, "What are you doing?" She jumped. "Nothing, just recording a video for my sister." I said, "You're following me." She said, "No, I'm not. This is a public place." I said, "You need to stop." She walked away. I went to the police. I filed a report for harassment and stalking. The officer looked at me and said, "Did she threaten you?" I said, "No." "Did she touch you?" "No." "Did she damage your property?" "No." "Then there's not much we can do. It's a he said, she said." I told him I had witnesses at work. He shrugged. "We'll note it." I walked out of the station feeling like I was the one in trouble. I'm black. I live in Texas. I know what that means when I walk into a police station. I know they see disabled and black and think problem. I tried to file a complaint with HR. They said they'd look into it, but Casey's been there longer than me. They moved me to a different shift instead. I thought that would be the end. But last week I saw a video posted on a local Facebook group. It was me walking into the grocery store. The caption, "Disabled, looks fine to me, wonder what she's hiding." The comments were full of people calling me a liar, a fraud, a welfare queen. I recognized the angle. It was from Casey's phone. I called the police again. They said it's a civil matter. I called a lawyer. She said I might have a case for invasion of privacy and defamation, but it would take time and money. I don't have that kind of money. I'm already working 2 jobs just to afford my medical bills. I confronted Casey at work. She smirked. "I didn't post it. Someone else must have." I said, "You're a liar." She said, "Prove it." Amy separated us. Amy told me she'd talk to HR again. I don't know if anything will happen. My family is scared. My mom said, "Be careful. People like that don't stop." My best friend said, "Sue her." But I'm tired. I'm in pain every day, and now I have to deal with someone documenting my life to prove I'm faking. I don't know what's going to happen next. I just know I didn't ask for any of this. I'm still waiting for HR to get back to me. I'm still waiting for the police to take me seriously. And I'm still waiting for the day I can walk down a grocery store aisle without wondering if someone's watching. I'm still waiting for HR to get back to me, but then something happened that changed everything. About 2 weeks after I filed the complaint, Casey started showing up at my other job, the part-time one. She'd come in, order a coffee, and sit in the corner with her phone pointed at me. I could see the red dot blinking, recording, every single time. My manager noticed. She asked me if I knew that woman. I told her the whole story. My manager was furious. She told Casey to leave and not come back. Casey smirked and said, "It's a public place. I can sit here if I want." My manager said, "Not if you're harassing my employee. Leave now or I call the cops." Casey left. But she stood outside for 20 minutes, phone still aimed at the window. I thought about quitting both jobs. I couldn't take it anymore, but I need the money. The medical bills don't stop because some ableist jerk decided I'm her pet project. Then I got a text from an unknown number. It was a screenshot of a Facebook post. The post had a photo of me sitting in my car in the handicap spot. The caption said, "Look who's parking in the disabled spot again. She doesn't look disabled to me. She's just lazy and entitled. Must be nice to take resources from real disabled people." The comments were horrible, people saying I was a fraud, that I should be reported, that I was stealing from taxpayers. One person commented my full name. Another commented my workplace. I felt sick. I knew it was Casey. The angle was the same. She'd been following me to grocery stores, to my other job, to my apartment parking lot. I called the police again. This time I brought printouts of the posts, the screenshots, timestamps. The officer looked at them and said, "This is a social media issue. You can report the post to Facebook. We can't do anything unless she threatens you physically." I said, "She's stalking me. She's posting my personal information." He said, "I understand, ma'am, but it's not a crime to take photos in public. She's not breaking any laws." I said, "She's harassing me. She's lying about me." He shrugged. "Take it to civil court. That's your only option." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just walked out. I called my mom. She said, "Baby, you need to move. Leave that town, get a fresh start." But I can't just move. I have a lease. I have 2 jobs. I have a life here, and I shouldn't have to be the one who leaves. I didn't do anything wrong. I decided to take the civil route. I found a lawyer who specialized in disability rights. She charged a consultation fee, but I paid it. I told her everything. She said, "You have a strong case for invasion of privacy, defamation, and possibly intentional infliction of emotional distress. But it's going to take months, and we'll need to prove she posted those things beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you have any direct evidence?" I said. "She told me she recorded me. She admitted it to my boss." The lawyer said, "We can subpoena her phone records, social media accounts, but that's expensive." I asked how expensive. She said, 5 figures at least. You might not get that back even if you win. I thanked her and said I'd think about it. I went home and sat in my car for an hour. I thought about all the days I pushed through the pain, all the times I forced myself to get out of bed and work, all the nights I cried into my pillow because my body was screaming. And now someone was trying to take away the one thing that made it a little easier, my dignity. I felt like I was drowning. A week later, I got an email from HR. They said they had reviewed my complaint and determined that Casey's actions were not conduct that rises to the level of harassment under company policy. They added that they had spoken to her and she agreed to avoid recording in the workplace. But they didn't fire her. They didn't even move her to a different shift. They said if I felt uncomfortable, I could transfer to a different location. Again, I was already at the closest one to my home. The next closest was 30 minutes away. I said no. I said I shouldn't have to move because of her. They said it was my choice. I felt like I was being punished for being disabled, for being black, for not fitting their image of what a person in pain looks like. Then came the final straw. I was at the grocery store again, different one this time, trying to avoid her. I was having a good day, for no cane. I was walking fast, grabbing what I needed. I turned down the frozen aisle and there she was, Casey, standing with her boyfriend. She saw me and whispered something to him. He laughed. She pulled out her phone and started recording again, openly this time. I walked up to her and said, "Are you serious right now?" She said, "Just documenting. You seem perfectly fine today, no cane, no limp. Funny how that works." I said, "You don't know me, you don't know what I go through." She said, "I know you're a liar." Her boyfriend stepped forward. He was big. He said, "You need to back off." I said, "I'm not the one who's been following someone for months. She's the one who needs to stop." He got in my face. I said, "Back off." I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I pulled out my own phone and started recording them. I said, "I'm documenting this for my lawyer. She's been stalking me. You're threatening me, that's all on video." Casey's face went white. She grabbed her boyfriend's arm and pulled him away. "Let's go," she said. They walked out. I stood there shaking. The store manager came over and asked if I was okay. I said no. I showed him the video. He said, "I can ban her from the store." I said, "That would help." He did, but I knew it wouldn't stop her. She'd just find another store, another parking lot, another way to twist the truth. That night, I posted my own video on social media. Not to shame her, but to tell my story. I said, "I'm disabled. I have chronic pain. I use a cane on bad days. On good days, I don't. That doesn't make me a fraud. It makes me human. This woman has been following me for months, filming me, posting lies about me. I've reported her to the police, to HR, to anyone who would listen. No one cares because I'm black and I'm disabled and I don't fit their picture of suffering. But I am suffering every single day, and I'm tired of being told to prove it." The post went viral, not huge but local. People started commenting. Some were supportive, some were the same people calling me a liar, but then something unexpected happened. A woman commented that Casey had done the same thing to her. Another woman said Casey had harassed her cousin. A pattern emerged. Casey had been doing this for years, targeting disabled people she thought were faking it. She had a whole folder of videos. She posted them in private groups. She was proud of it. I messaged those women. We shared stories. One of them said she had filed a police report 2 years ago and nothing happened. Another said Casey got her fired from a previous job by convincing the boss she was faking. I realized I wasn't alone, but that didn't make it any better. My lawyer called me after the post. She said, "This changes things. We have multiple witnesses now. We might be able to build a class action or at least get a restraining order." I said, "I don't have the money." She said, "I'll work on contingency. I believe you." I almost cried. Someone finally believed me. I got the restraining order 3 weeks later. The judge granted it based on the evidence, the videos, the posts, the witnesses, the incident at the grocery store. Casey was ordered to stay at least 500 feet away from me, my home, my jobs, and my family. She was also ordered to delete all videos and posts of me. She didn't show up to the hearing. Her lawyer said she denied everything, but the judge ruled against her anyway. HR finally did something after they got the court order. They terminated Casey for violating company policy. I heard she cried in the parking lot. I didn't feel bad. I felt relieved, but also hollow. I still have chronic pain. I still have bad days and good days. I still use my cane. I still park in the handicap spot. And I still look over my shoulder when I walk into a grocery store. But I also know that I fought back. I didn't just take it. And I hope that my story helps someone else who's being told they're not sick enough, not disabled enough, not worthy enough. I'm still here, I'm still in pain, but I'm not a fraud, and I know that now. I think that's the hardest part, believing it yourself when no one else does.